This guy actually runs a $1 million a year business. He's got 11,000 students, 50 employees, 2 businesses that are running simultaneously. Yet when I asked him 4 days ago, what's your cost per lead? What's your average lifetime value of a customer? He didn't even know that. And the funny thing here is he already was using Claude. So what we did is we came in, we installed an AI operating system for him, and that massively changed his life, gave him his actual life back. And when we first started working together, he told me one specific thing that stuck with me. He told me, Richard, I started this business to actually enjoy my life, to actually have a good lifestyle, to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Yet now I am stuck in between tasks day to day, and I don't know how to get out of this. He literally told me his life right now is a living hell. He didn't know his numbers. He had to chase his staff for reports to show him that in a meeting that he forgot about anyway later in the week. So he was constantly in this perpetuum of having to chase people and actually never knowing about his real numbers in his business. Yet his main goal at the end of the day was literally to just play paddle. All that he wanted to do is just show up at the court and play paddle, and his business actually running itself. Yet for the past 20 years of running those businesses, he hasn't been able to achieve that once. Then he started to go into Claude. Yet he found himself copy and pasting all day long, logging into this, logging into that, having to fetch different logins for different platforms, password reset that, two-factor authentication that. His day was just not optimized, and he always was in between tasks. He already knew and understood what is Claude, what is OpenAI. He's in his 40s. He was very, very in-depth with what is going on in the AI landscape. However, what he was missing was that centralization part. And his goal was to go from 1 million per year to actually 2 million. So doubling that revenue with this specific business. And with centralization, he wanted to make it possible. Now, to be honest, how we started working together was quite funny. We first of all discussed so many different opportunities, an AI audit and AI automation for a specific content repurposing platform. We sent, I think, 4 or 5 proposals back and forth before we even started working together, because he wanted to do so many things. Yet that first layer of having centralized data just wasn't given. And AI can only amplify what you already have. So we had to solve that first, and we actually got to work. Now, to give you a bit of an overview, we had 5 sessions on actually doing this, and each were 4 hours long, and we did this on a back-to-back basis. So basically, within a week, he regained his whole life. Now, before we did anything, we first of all put this all into a Notion. On that Notion, you'll see pop up on the screen somewhere here. On that Notion, he actually got a good insight into what are we working on right now, what are his main tasks, but also get an overview of what are the commands, how can you actually use the system. So it's not just a system that you forget in a couple of weeks' time, but it actually is a system that you can use on a day-to-day basis with having the resource of Notion always at your side. And there was literally everything in there. So from the layers that we've had all the way through to the context that his business generated, all the way through literally the modules, so that way he can not only install it for himself if he wants to add something on, but also that way he always has the security of, hey, even when we're not there, he still can operate his business and he's not dependent on someone else again. Plus also a pro tip for all the businesses out there, we had tasks. So tasks for next time. That way we could ensure that in between those sessions, you can only make progress and you can actually drive the business forward and actually focus on enriching the database, enriching the contacts. And those were pretty simple. Those were, for example, step A, populate your staff registry. How many staff members do you have? What are the specific use cases? What are the emails? Stuff like that. Now, in terms of how we set this whole system up for him, we gave him a bit of an analogy on essentially the body analogy. We're going to build you, another human. Now, let's flip the page here. Let's start off on a clean slate. This whole system was built on 5 specific layers. Now, first of all, what we started off was, if we can imagine like a human, it's a very shitty drawing of a human. First of all, what we had to start with was the brain here, which was the context OS. Basically, what we installed for him after we've already set up the whole infrastructure of Claude Code, connecting it to the necessary API keys through Claude. The first module, the first layer that we've installed was the context OS. And this contributed towards the whole AI I guess, infrastructure that he had set up. For example, knowledge about his business, knowledge about his personal life, knowledge about his multiple businesses, because he had specifically 2 that he's running right now, and he wants to focus on one and then also simultaneously keep the other one in check, because this one's more or less on autopilot. So stuff like business, personal, the staff registry, his numbers, for example, his funnel, etc., etc. So really, that way, the AI had a really good understanding, the brain, of his business, what's going on, what's important to him, and what is actually his goal and his desire, his ambition, where's that coming from. So for example, his goal was to, instead of making 1 million a year, he wants to get with this specific business to 2 million a year. And the AI now does everything in its power to always keep this front of mind. So whenever it gives an answer, it already understands the whole business structure. So that way you don't have to go back and forth, reprompt it, copy and paste, yada yada. What we did next, once there was that basic understanding of him and his business, is we gave it ears and we gave it eyes. Now, probably you're gonna laugh at me for this one, but we gave it ears and we gave it eyes. What I mean with that is we gave it insights into real business, so it can actually deal with proper data. For example, with ears, what we did, maybe let's use a different color. What we did is we connected Fathom, and we actually implemented call recordings for him, because he was always on Google Meets calls, but somehow he always forgot what was in them, and then his employees had to send him like a record of it, and it was just a whole mess. He didn't really know what happened in those meetings because he was on so many. So what we did is we installed 2 softwares to capture meetings. One was Fathom. That was for one of his businesses, and then the other one was Fireflies. He went into a meeting, he literally just invited the Fireflies. It was like an AI note taker that you see on Google Meets, etc. It auto joins, it tracks all the data, it records the whole conversation, can send it back to his employees now as well. He preferred to only get it sent back to himself. And what we give it here is those ears. And those ears, they then feed into the understanding of the business and into essentially the brain again. And this whole system here, we called Intel OS. So Intel operating system, gathering that intel. With those eyes, those are actually the most important aspect. Because yes, being on Google Meets calls is nice, but what actually happens when you sleep? What happens when you're not on Google Meets calls? So what we did is we installed those eyes, and we installed Data OS, which is essentially under the second layer of actually understanding the whole business. And what Data OS does is it pulls all the data from those different sources, like Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, from your CRM, from your customer fulfillment portal, pulls all that data into one specific resource and into one specific database. So for him specifically, what was really important was the marketing side. So we're talking about Meta, we're talking about LinkedIn, his CRM integration, things that are specific towards the growth of the business. Now, this also, for example, was the payment processor. So, for example, Stripe. That way you can track your metrics. For him, the biggest impact was the Data OS here, because he didn't know anything about his business, about where the data comes from, and he outsourced it all to agencies. So now he actually regains that control. What we did now is we actually gave it a mouth. Previously, it could already talk, but that was mostly glued onto your laptop in the terminal. Not the nicest UI design, not the nicest look. So what we did, we gave him that mouth, and we installed another module, which is called the Command OS. So that way, he could actually speak to this specific AI agent, not even having to be glued to his laptop, but literally while being on a paddle cord, just literally recording a voice note of, hey, what were the numbers for the last day? And then it walks you through your query, through your question. And you can run your business and have control of your business through your phone while you play paddle, while you play golf, while you go out there and actually enjoy life, which was at the end of the day the whole reason why he started his business, to actually enjoy his life. Now specifically where we hosted this was on Telegram, and they could always communicate back and forth. What this did was 2 things. Number 1, it made it accessible, even if he wasn't glued to his laptop, to actually work on his business and have control of his business. That way, he freed up his location and his flexibility with that. What this also did was we implemented a specific module that was the daily debrief. This daily rundown consisted key metrics, was literally a dashboard sent to his phone, and it consisted metrics like, for example, the payment, how many customers did they get in, the data from LinkedIn, the data from Meta, the data from every single advertising source, and also how many students were at risk, right? So how does the CM look like? How do the managers actually perform? What staff is underperforming? What staff is overperforming? Where is a promotion due? Where is a promotion not due? And AI literally gave him a rundown of a detailed 12-page description across each department of his business. What's next? What are the fires that he needs to put out? But also, most importantly, what the agent can actually do by itself without even needing him for that. And literally what he had to do, hey, yes, do it, green light, and the AI agent did it. So this was the biggest impact, because within 5 minutes, he had a whole rundown of his total business, and he was already briefed while literally holding his morning coffee in hand, and already understood what each department did, what happened across the last 24 hours, how are we performing month to date, so compared to the last month, if you want to double our revenue within the next year, how are we performing in context of that goal. Now, back to our previous example, what's missing here is, of course, the nose as well. Doesn't get a nose, but most importantly, the hands. So how can the AI agent actually do and perform tasks without even his permission? Now back to the command OS, here, it already had ideas and it asked for permission, but it couldn't actually fulfill on those promises yet, just because it lacked the hand. So what we did is we installed specific modules. What we started off first with, in order for him to actually automate his business, and this is where it goes from just having like a cool AI concept, having like a cool AI that knows your business, to this actually being super useful, because it now can produce and automate tasks for you. So what we did is we sat down and did, first of all, a full-on task audit on how he actually runs his business. The AI chatted back and forth with him. This was a custom module that we pulled out for him. AI chatted back and forth with him on, hey, what's actually going on? How can you actually implement this? What are the tasks that you're facing day to day? And then the AI classified this into specific things that he does on a day-to-day basis. And based on that, the impact that would have when he automates that, right? So for example, we have task X that's worth 20 hours of his week, which is in total 80 hours per month. And then we have task Y, which is worth 5 hours per week. Naturally, it's going to incentivize on solving this one and prioritize task X because that's the highest ROI. Now it's time to automate. And now it's actually time to gain his life back and gain his free time back. So what we told AI, we should sit down together on the 4th session, on the last session, how can we actually automate those tasks? And we spoke back and forth to Claude, and it built this whole system out with him. And he was interactive in the process. He told the AI, what did he like? What did he not like? And this is the second step. The second step then is automate. And most importantly, what we told him as well was speak. Speak. Actually speak up. Let the AI do its job. It tries to understand you. Help AI out. And once we did all this and we automated and we crossed off each task step by step, that's when it actually became transformative for him, because instead of him needing to do like a client report or write up even an email, something that takes like 10 minutes, but the operational load is massive, he could literally take his phone in the middle of a paddle call, be like, hey AIOS, what are the emails that came through overnight? Give me an answer to them. If they seem critical, just pass them on, draft a message on each one of them, and then put them into my drafts folder in Gmail. And it literally answers those emails on autopilot. All that he has to do at a later stage in the day, once he already drank his coffee, got briefed by AI, he goes through his drafts folders in Gmail and ticks them off step by step. And this whole system was so important for him because now he couldn't only ask AI on what to actually do because it had that context. Not only could the AI actually see what's going on in the business with the eyes and the ears, but most importantly as well, it could speak literally on his phone, not having to be glued to your desktop 24/7, actually being able to play paddle, go on the tennis court, speak something into your phone 24/7, and the bot answers and actually executes on the tasks that you give him. Isn't that insane? That's an employee that's running at the cost of what? 20 cents per message? Isn't that insane? And he told me that after we finished setting everything up, he told me personally, Richard, this is such a massive benefit. I can't believe I didn't implement this further. All right, this was a long talk. Now, I'll be super honest here. As fancy as this all sounds, I always want to be transparent on this YouTube channel. There were some issues, and there were some real problems that we faced when it comes to this build out. The first problem that we faced was the API keys. Some of them were missing, non-existent. Others, the business owner, the founder, the CEO just didn't have access to it because they were outsourced, so we had to chase them. And others were just very difficult to get. For example, Meta ads or LinkedIn ads, they have so much authentication necessary that we literally spent an hour just to try and get a Meta ads account API key, which is super long. Or for example, with Breve Conversations, where he stores all of his conversations, where his staff chats to the prospects who want to buy his product, there simply wasn't an API key. So we had to build something around it. We had to build a custom collector that pulls the data from that daily, tracks the conversations and stores it in a server locally, just for us to see how many conversations, what the conversion rate, and what the satisfaction rate is on that. Isn't that crazy? The second problem was the systems that he used. And I'll be quite honest, for someone who already was 20 years in business, he had fantastic systems. Everything was pretty up to date. Now, with other business owners that we work with, typically they just don't have so many up-to-date systems, which is fine, especially in accounting, legal, healthcare sector. Those systems are just a bit older and more just, for example, this telephone system, we literally didn't even have an API key there. We needed to message the telephone provider, get that API key, build a custom collector again, and then walk through 50 different steps of authentication before we can even access that data. So some of his systems were just old and weren't up to speed with the pace of where AI is going, which could happen to you technically too. Let's say you run your business, you've been running it for the past 10 to 15 years. Those systems that you've been using 15 years ago, they probably don't even exist, nor do they have the API keys necessary to actually connect this. So you will have to find a build around that. If you have someone helping you with that, fantastic. If not, then good luck. And the third aspect that we really struggled with was not even on the AI side, not even on the systems or software side, it was on his employees. Because some of his employees, they didn't track data properly, they didn't track their time properly that they spend in actually working on. So we had to build out custom SOPs on that, send it to the staff, but then also make sure that we have a correction logic when anything seems super off, so that the AI just doesn't take it for granted. A full case study will come very, very soon on this. We'll sit down and record this whole journey. If it already is out, there will be an info button somewhere here that you can click, and it will take you to that case study. Now, what's actually the verdict here? What were the three main outcomes for him? Was all this effort, was all this work actually worth it? And so I asked him that, what actually did you get out of this so far, even though it's the 4th out of 5 sessions? And he told me three things. Three things that mainly influenced him in his business that will set him up for success. Number one is data centralization. So we have LinkedIn cost per lead, we have the Meta spend, we have all sources connected to one dashboard that he can see every morning, that he can probe the AI on, ask questions on, and this lands at his phone and he can read through it even with his first morning coffee. So that means that you can literally, instead of chasing, logging in, two-factor authentication, oh my god, was it this password or was it actually this password? You can now literally just ask one simple question and not chase 50 different people or log into 50 different softwares. So that data centralization aspect was super important for him. The second aspect that he's the most grateful for was the data transparency. Previously, he used to make decisions on the data that his employees told him. Now, you want to assume that this data is actually correct, but sometimes human error just happens. Or they want to protect their own flesh and actually literally lie straight to your face. With this system, you can actually make informed decisions on real data every single day instead of guessing. And the third aspect, and the third thing that he told me was perfect, was the fulfillment model and how I've actually delivered for him. Because you will see it attached in the videos here, what we did is we just sat down with him in person. So he could leave his laptop mid-session, We had my laptop here, his laptop here. He sat next to me. I walked him through everything, what I did and how I did it, and I made sure to include him in the process. However, with that being said, he could leave his laptop mid-session, go leave for a quick phone call, come back again, and actually have this whole system built out. And I'm just going to brief him on the updates and what happened in the meantime. So it's also done with you, not just done for you. He actually understands the business, he understands the structure, he has a whole Notion built out for him, a whole customer success portal on what he can do with it and what he can't. So he actually knows what's going on in the business and it's not just a black box. Now to wrap it all up, it was a very, very cool journey. The full case study is coming very, very soon. He's very, very happy to actually build this out. It was our first iOS build out. We already have 2 other business owners inquiring about our systems, so those are next. If this is something that you want to implement for yourself, you just don't really know how, or you want our personalized guidance in a similar format like this business owner did, feel free to look down in the description. There's a link to our website and to a Calendly page where you can book yourself an introductory call to us, to the team. My co-founder will jump on that as well. And we will see how we can help you automate your business and actually get your life back. So you can go off, play paddle, ask your phone what's going on right now, and you will still have that overview of the business. Now, with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Again, the link is down in the description, and I will see you all in the next video. If you look to this side, there will be the latest video about Claude Code coming up, which you can watch next. Click the subscribe button so you don't miss any new AI, specifically Claude news, and click the like button to let me know that you've liked the video. If there's anything specific that you struggle with, let me know down in the comments. I'll give you the time of the day to answer personally to your inquiry and make sure that you get that next step and we can provide you as much value as possible. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.